Hi, this is Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today, it's yet another unenveloping, unboxing if you like, but it's an envelope, so that's why I unenvelope it. In this envelope is the latest Moonman pen that I've ordered. This is a brand new model to me, so I'm going to be really interested to see how it looks and how it works. Join me down on the mat where we'll take a look at the pen, we'll ink it up, and we'll do some writing samples. Here we are then, down on the mat, and we're looking at this week's envelope. Let's take a quick look. So as I said, this is a Moonman pen, and it's a different Moonman than what I've had in the past. So let's slowly ease out the pen so we can start to see it. Well, we've got a postcard. Then we've got this black pen with silver, well, like, I'm going to call them freckles. This is a Moonman M8. I say this is the first time I've had one of these pens. Let me just turn it around so I've got the nib pointing the right way. This pen cost me 24 Australian dollars. You know, I'm actually quite pleased with that. Just looking at this, doesn't that look gorgeous with that silver? Let's take a look at the pen itself. Well, we start off here. We've got a rounded cap. This comes down to a gold coloured clip. For me, I'd like to have seen that in silver to go with the rest of it, but obviously Moonman thought, well, gold will look alright. The clip, like always, like most Chinese clips, it's really stiff. I mean, I'll know better once I start putting that in a shirt pocket how it goes. There, so the cap, it's got that dome at the end as we said, then it goes flat. Until we come to here, where we've got a tiny step down to the main body. The main body then, again, it seems to be the same width going all the way along until we come to the end here, where we've got another dome. Overall, just taking in the looks of this pen, I really like it. I mean, I like the looks of it. It's one of those pens though, I think it's an acquired taste type of pen. I don't really think it's going to be a pen that's going to be for everybody. Let's see about getting in to look at the nib. So I'm twisting the cap, half, 1, 1.5, 2. So we'll take the cap off to reveal a plastic section. It would have been nice if the cap and the nib were lined up in such a way that taking off that cap revealed the nib, but never mind. So let's turn it over and let's take a look at the nib. So here we are, we've got that standard gold coloured Moonman nib. So this is a fine pen, a fine nib. I've got to be honest, I don't mind the Moonman nibs. Again, because of everything else, it would be nice if it was the silver colour rather than gold. But I'm guessing that Moonman nibs, they're produced in bulk using the same metal, so it's hard to get those different colours. From the nib, we come down into the section. Now the section, there's no lip at the end. I've got to be honest, I'm looking forward to trying this out because quite often I find the lips get in the way. I tend to hold my pen down really, really low. So the nibs, the lips there, they usually dig in. Now at the moment I can feel the edge is digging into my finger. Once I start writing and I get into my writing position, that might change. Now I don't know if you can hear it, but there is something shaking in here. And I'm hoping it's because this body was fairly loose, because it did feel fairly loose. We take it off and again we've got our Moonman converter there. Standard Moonman converter, with a little bit of metal, the metal spring inside, which will agitate the ink to stop it from going all solid on me. Although, to be honest, I don't leave ink in a pen long enough for it to go solid. If I've got an inking pen, I want to write with it. Let's pop that back on. And we go with this back on. So obviously, as you can see, it was metal fittings, so this isn't going to be a pen that can be eyedroppered, which is a shame because I do like, with a lot of my pens, to be able to eyedropper them because, well, it just lets me get more ink in there so I don't have to fill it as often. But that's fine, you know, the converters, they're easy enough and quick enough to refill. And to be honest, it lets me change my colours a lot more often. You know, most of my pens, certainly the ones that I'm using in anger, I need to change that ink maybe once a week, at the most once a fortnight, because I do try to use them a lot to really get to know the pens and to enjoy writing with them. Because why else are we buying a pen if not to enjoy writing with it? I'm now going to step away. I'm going to give the pen a really good clean through. When I come back, we'll take a look at the ink and then we'll do a writing sample. And I'm back. So today's ink, I'm going to be using a Colorverse ink and it's Sea of Tranquility. When I was looking at the pen and I'm thinking, I know they're funny size, shapes and all, but reminds me a little bit of stars up in the night sky. So I thought I'd love to have some kind of theme around here, around the universe. And then I went to my inks and Colorverse. Obviously, they use a lot of different names of astronomical things when they're naming their inks. And I thought, well, which ink shall I use? And I settled on this. I like green. I thought, well, that's fine. It's a black pen. I can use any colour I want. I'm not going to be limited by the colour. Because, like, you know, if it's a red pen, I tend to use red inks. So I thought, yeah, this is perfect. Let's try this green colour. I quite like Sea of Tranquility. I've used it in a couple of pens before. I'm hoping that it performs well in this. The nib on this is fine, but I tend to think that Moonman nibs are wetter than normal. So I think this might be a nice ink to try in this pen. So let me just move that out of the way. The dragon's going to be guarding the ink today whilst I fill. Just fetching my sample. I'm actually starting to run low on this one. I think it's going to have to be one of those where I go and order another sample bottle. I've looked at buying a full bottle of this, but I've got to be honest, it's really expensive. It's about $50 for one bottle, whereas I can get a bottle of diamine ink for about $9. And, you know, I'm a bit of a skinflint. I like nice inks, and I'm quite happy then just to keep on getting samples of this until I can save up enough to be able to get a full bottle. So let's just pop in the pen and see what a fill we get. So it's down, up, filling it for the second time. Oh, got a bit of ink on my fingers. So about 3/4 of the converter is full of ink, so that's not too bad. I'll just quickly wipe it off, pop the pen back together, and let's get that ink out of the way before I end up knocking it over. Okay, time for a writing samples. Let's fetch in the trusty notepad. So my notepad, as usual, is this one. It's by Oxford and it uses the optic paper, which is a really nice fountain pen friendly paper. I try to use this for all my reviews so that I've got a consistent type of paper that I'm using, but it is quite hard to get this in Australia, so whenever I see it, I end up buying 4 or 5 of these. So I've got quite a nice stash at the moment. So let's get on with the writing. This is a Moonman M8 with a fine nib. Can you see what I'm saying about the wetness of the Moonman writing? You know, this, although it's a fine, it looks on the thicker side of fine to me. My ink, by Colorverse, and it's the Sea of Tranquility. Not too bad to write with. So far it seems there's a little bit of feedback, but it's fairly smooth. Let's test for wetness. So this is immediate. Now going to leave it for 10 seconds. "30 seconds. "30 seconds. Well, it's still fairly wet. I'll leave it now for 1 minute. After a minute, well, look at that. We've still got some wetness to it. So it's not a quick drying pen and ink combination. So if you're left-handed, you know, I think it's when you're going to need to think about if you're going to use this, because yeah, I could see that being quite awkward. Also, like for note taking, you know, it's all right where, like here, where I'm just doing a few lines. But if you're going to be doing pages of notes, you don't want to be waiting for the ink to dry before you can turn the paper over. So yeah, this is something I would certainly need to think about with this pen and ink. Let's do our main writing sample. For this writing sample, I'll move the mic close to the paper so you can actually hear the pen write. So that's not bad for writing. It's not quiet. You know, you can certainly hear it. It's fairly smooth, but what I was feeling a couple of times is I could feel as if the pen was catching on the paper is the best way to describe it. It's not rough like I get with some pens, but it's not got that smoothness. So I think this is one where just a little bit of attention with some micro mesh just to smooth that down a tiny bit may help with this pen. With the ink, well, I'm not seeing much in the way of shading coming through. I mean, there's little bits, but certainly not the amount that I see with some of my other pens. But again, I need to just work on the nib a bit. That might help with that. But yeah, it's a pleasant writing experience. It's really nice. It glides, you know, it's not something you have to force it through. If I take the pen and just let it sit in my hand and pull it across the paper, we get in mainly a line, we get a couple of little gaps. So needs to have that little bit of pressure. It's a fairly stiff nib. You know, if I put a bit of pressure on it, yes, we get a little bit of line variation, but it's not a pleasant experience. So what are my first impressions of this pen? It's nice. It looks nice. It was 24 Australian dollars, so it's in that mid-range of pens that I would normally buy. It's not up to the M800 or the M600S standards. You know, both those Moonman pens are just gorgeous, beautiful to write with. But it looks different. I mean, I've got no other pens which are black with silver in it. It's one of those things you could put out a little bit of a conversation point. As a daily writer, I'd need to play around with some more inks because this looks fairly wet to me, and if I was going to be using this for note taking, well, I just wouldn't be able to. Let's have a quick look over. I mean, it's not bled through, so in that respect, it's not too bad. I could use both sides of the paper. It's just, would I be happy having to wait over a minute for a page to dry? No, I wouldn't. So that's it for this pen. My first impressions, I say, lovely pen, writes nice, does what it's meant to, helps me to get those thoughts out of my head and down onto paper. It's got some challenges, and these are things that I'll work through over the next few weeks as I prepare to do a more fuller review of this pen, but pleased I got it. It's a nice pen and I enjoyed using it. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Have you got this pen? Have you got any Moonmen pens? Why not drop a comment down below? Let's start talking about this Moonman brand and how we think it reflects the state of Chinese pens. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up, hit that like button. The more people that like and comment on my videos, well, it just helps the YouTube algorithm to surface the content for other people. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.